This man, going back to where we began, at the pool was somehow brought to Jesus' attention, and Jesus went to engage the man in conversation. He asked the man, "Sir, would you be made whole?" And this man's response reveals the toll that 38 years of struggle had taken on his psyche. First words out of his mouth, "Sir, would you be made whole?" "I can't." First two words out of his mouth, "I can't." In other texts, it's implicit because he doesn't answer the question yes or no, but explains, "I don't have anybody to help me get in the pool, and every time the water's troubled, somebody else beats me there." He doesn't answer, "Yes, I would like to be made whole," which might be a reasonable response. His mind does not entertain the possibility that things could get better. He believes he needs help, can't get help, and thus cannot be made whole. The decades spent under his affliction have caused him to dismiss the possibility of being healthy. It's truly a tragic situation when cycles of time and dysfunction start to constrict the range of possibilities that our psyche can entertain. In other words, things have been bent, crooked, messed up, jacked up for so long that eventually that starts to translate into a new normal, and I can't mentally entertain the idea that there is a better way of living that I could experience. When somebody asks, "Would you like to live better?" I can't. Not I can, but I need it, but I can't. I can't because there's nobody to help me. When we allow brokenness to become our new normals, our realities become defined by the boundaries of our abnormalities. We have an abnormal new normal, and the most we begin to expect and hope for out of life over time is whatever that new abnormal has taught us is possible. Such bondage causes the mind to subconsciously dismiss the very notion of being made whole. Thus, when we ask if we want better or if we want to get better, precognitively or subconsciously, before we get a chance to think about it, the first thing we think of is, "I can't." It's tough sometimes trying to talk and work with people and talk to people about how to improve their situations, because the first thing that they will tell you is, "I can't, because I'd like to, but." Before they get to "I'd like to" and get to entertain a possibility of a path forward, they've already failed so many times. They've dismissed that anybody's going to come up with anything different than what they've tried. And so their resolution and their conclusion and their response to the question is, "I can't." It's not always the one shot that the enemy uses to kill our spirits, but it is often the corrosive effect of perpetual dysfunctionality across years or decades that he uses to subjugate our souls to his new normal. We've talked about God's plans, God's expectations, God's hopes, God's dreams for us. The enemy of the world has ideas of what normal is supposed to look like for you, and over time, they can subject you to it because time can corrode hope and dreams and belief and faith and cause you to believe that since nobody else is there to help, I can't. Instead of clinging to what God declares we can be, we compromise it into something simpler. We modify it, water it down, make it seem to fit more within the constructs of what our dysfunctional experiences have told us is reasonable to expect. God promises abundant living, and we allow ourselves to aspire to reasonably functional dysfunctionality. God promises abundant living, and we hope for reasonably functional dysfunctionality. Then there is even more tragedy in this man's response, as it passes the responsibility for his deliverance onto somebody else. He doesn't just say, "I can't," or he doesn't say, "I can't because I can't get in the pool." He says, "I can't because there's nobody to put me in the pool, and everybody else gets in there ahead of me." Meaning, my only way of getting there is the reason I'm not better is because nobody will help me. Not because I can't make it to the pool, but somebody else is going to have to help me for me to get better, and since nobody else is going to help me, I can't. My deliverance is in the hands of other people, so I can't. He points to those around him as the reason why his being made whole is not an option. Bad things tend to happen when we place responsibility for our circumstances on other people or rely on other people for our deliverance. I would have, but they didn't. I would have, but they said and they didn't. I would have, but somebody else, and so I can't. Sometimes the bad thing that happens is nothing. Nothing happens because somebody else didn't do what we wanted or needed them to do. They didn't take the time to help, so nothing happens. They were unreliable and didn't keep their word, so nothing happens. Meanwhile, we're the ones that persist as blind, lame, crippled, dysfunctional, broke, depressed, destitute, angry, lonely, and sick. This man gave up the idea of getting himself into the pool. He tried and failed and tried again and eventually came to the conclusion that it just was not going to happen. So when somebody came and asked, do you want better? He said, I can't.